Hey folks, Dre, Recovery One Drones again. If you're familiar with my background, you know I've done several videos from this area. I'm out in Fontana, California today again to do some progressive mapping work on this site. I've been on this site for going on my second year. It's a large residential site, but I also included a storm drain channel that had to be built partially above ground and underground. So that's why it's taking so long to get this site developed, because of the additional work that had to be done on this site. So once again, I'll be talking and working at the same time, setting things up, breaking down my equipment, setting up the equipment, all that kind of good stuff. And I'll probably be out here a total of about 2 hours. This flight takes about roughly 5 batteries. So I average about 20 minutes per battery, and you can do the math from there. So once again, this is Dre Crawford, Recovery One Drones. Hang on, enjoy the ride, and please subscribe. Thank you. As per my routine, check my props, make sure they're securely in place, make sure they are in good condition. Usually when I fly for this amount of time, I always try to make sure I have my neck strap with me to take some of the pressure off my lower back. Holding this controller. So here we are. I'm gonna back up a little bit. Going to initiate the flight. And drone deploy goes to a pre-flight checklist on permissions, limited drone support, GPS, number of satellites. It will not let you take off unless you have at least 10 satellites showing, and it will give you the warnings. It also does automatic focus on the camera and other things to make sure everything's good to go when you conduct this flight. We go ahead and hit the start flight button. You see this puppy take off here. And she's off and running. So there we go, we're on our first leg. We usually average about 150 photographs per battery on this. That can vary upon the different parameters in the KML file. So, you know, it varies. I know most of the ones I do, I average anywhere between 150 and 170 something photos per battery. And that's another tool I use to let me know where I'm at during the flight. Do I need to bring it home maybe a little early, or I can try to, if it's on its way back, I can try to squeeze out a little more on the way back without worrying about it going to auto land or getting my battery level too low where we're going to auto land. So here we are. Okay, we got a problem here. And once again, this is why you got to watch your equipment all times. So for some reason, this happens every so often. I'm in this area where I'll put a battery in, set it in motion, takes off, and this thing will start to just start flying south for some unknown reason. And it shouldn't be doing that. I am just adjacent to the first start point. So I'm not understanding why it wants to go where it's going. So these are things you got to anticipate, try to mitigate what's happening, and be aware of what's going on with your flight at all times. So we're going to bring it back. We're going to reset the mission parameters and go from there. Now I tell people I got full bars on my controller, on my HD signal, 19 satellites. So there's no reason why this thing was going where it was going. Like I say, a true flyaway is when you have no control of the drone. I never lost control of the drone. I discontinued the program and I ordered it back and the drone responded. So this is something in the software that happened here. And this is where we got to just go ahead and reset it. And when you bring a drone back in drone deploy, it'll ask you to continue the flight or reset the flight. We're going to reset. Okay. Make sure we're in map plan. I didn't screw nothing up there. Okay. Like I said, it goes to its pre-flight list, drone camera, so on and so forth. And now it shows me the appropriate start area like I thought it did before, but I may have been distracted. So we're gonna fire it up again. Now I wasted about, I would say, a good 10% of my battery because of this issue. So like I said, now things are gonna change as far as battery management, I should say. Things will change. So instead of me getting to the first starting point and this thing starting at roughly around 93%, now I'm gonna start somewhere probably less than 80% by the time it gets to altitude. Right now it's just not coming up on 280. I fly this thing at 393 feet, okay? And I'm already down to 81% and it hasn't even reached its altitude yet, which means it hasn't even gone off to where it goes to. Now it's turned and now it's going to the appropriate start point. So this is why I'm always telling folks, do not rely upon the software, do not rely upon your sensors. You as the pilot in command, you as the pilot operator is the one that's should be always in control of your flight. You can't rely upon artificial means to control the flight. And that way you can't sit and say, oh, the flight didn't do what I was supposed to do. No, you're in charge. That's why you got to pay attention at all times. Now I'm out here doing an autonomous flight. I need to turn around here a little bit so I can get my camera to follow me a little bit, so I can keep my visual line of sight, so you guys will get a side profile of me and make sure I know what's going on. But so far right now, like before when it took off and where it's supposed to go, it hadn't even took any picture. That's why I knew something was wrong. Now I've already got 7 shots in. And like I said, we're looking somewhere around 150. Now we lost about 10% of our battery power already. We're already down to 76%. So I'm probably gonna get no more about maybe 120 shots or maybe even less on this first battery. So that throws my battery count out. Now, that's why I always say, when you're doing work, make sure you got plenty of batteries. Now, this drone here, I came out with 6 batteries. It usually only takes me about 5. I got 1 extra battery. Plus, I have my backup drone, which is another Phantom 4, as a Phantom 4 Advanced actually, as my backup drone. Very capable of completing this job also with another 5 batteries. So I got a total of 11 batteries out here today. My third drone I brought with me today is my Mavic 2 Pro, which I don't plan on using on this job, but because it does not suit the parameters of the job. And people always talk about, oh, electronic shutter, blah, 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 this and that. Guess what? The client specifically state, do not use Mavic 2 Pro or any drone similar with electronic shutter. I had basically a few options to use on this mission. I should say this job. Is use the Phantom 4 Pro, or I would have been using something like a M300 with a P1 camera lens, and then I would have had to usually I get about close to 700 shots on this job. And I would have sat there and had to reduce the size of 700 photos before I upload them to the client. So this is why you know, people ask, why do you have so many drones? I need to have a drone that fits the needs of the job and doesn't cause me a lot of extra heartache and whatever else. So sometimes you have to abide by what the client wants. You may be the drone pilot, and it's up to you to decide when to fly and where to fly, because that's your responsibility under the rules and regulations of the FAA. But during the flight, you know, you gotta also remember what the client's needs are and what they're requesting you to do. All right, we're doing good downrange. 26 shots so far, 27. Now I have two jobs I got to do today. This one, like I say, I'm in Fontana, California. The next job, I got to travel down into Riverside County to Paris, California, to do another, I call Waldo job, where there's not an actual building there. They haven't even started construction on the building or anything, unlike this job where it's an actual development. This is just a job where we're just looking at potential sites. So I'm basically gonna be shooting shots of empty land. There's about 5 planned flights that I need to execute. And they're just aerial flights ranging from 350 feet all the way down to 150 feet, flying into the proposed property area. Now the interesting factor about this flight is I'll be in class, I believe it's class C airspace, because I'll be flying right next to March Air Base. So I will have to use my COA that I have for that area, engage that, and that's where I may use the Mavic 2 Pro, because all I'm doing is shooting video at that point. And it's just a little nicer to use it with the smart controller I have with my Pro. But I might use the other Phantom. It all depends on what I'm looking at. Okay, we just completed one leg downrange. Coming back up, we're at 42 shots, and we're down to 61% battery. Like I said on one of my last videos when I was out in the field, when I was using Litchi, which I will be using Litchi later on today for those planned flights, is that it would verbally tell me through the controller what my altitude is, what my battery is. This one doesn't do it in drone deploy, so I have to basically make sure I'm paying attention to where my altitude levels are and also what my battery levels are at all times. We're flying at a nice cruising speed of 10.4 miles per hour. And people might say, why you fly so slow? I say, when you're doing mapping work, speed is not always the key. You want to make sure you don't outfly the camera. And that doesn't matter what camera you're using, you can go too fast for a camera. So you want to make sure the camera has time to make, it gives an opportunity to take a very accurate picture, and you don't get no blur at all. That is the bottom line when you do mapping type work, is you can't afford to have any blur. It throws everything off. So you can't come out here, I can't say you can't, but I would be ill-advised you to come out here and think you're gonna fly 20, 25 miles per hour and fly this map. Yeah, I might get it done a little faster, but how good would the map be? I always tell folks I would never fly faster than 14 miles per hour. And like I say, sometimes it's all about testing it out. When I first flew this one out here, I think I came in at 14 and I had a couple of blurry shots. So I slowed it down till I have no blurry shots at all. And 10 miles per hour on this site seems to be the sweet spot. Now, other sites I've flown faster. A lot of times it depends upon the terrain that you're flying over, okay? It's always better to have what we call uneven, undulating terrain, so the camera gets a feeling of distance and depth. when it's shooting out, because the camera's shooting at a 90-degree angle, so it's shooting straight down. When it's just pure flat land, that's when you start getting a few blurred shots, and that's why you have to slow down when it's just flat land, because the camera doesn't get a chance to distinguish between the different pictures. I don't want to say pictures, but it's actually the terrain. The terrain is not changing, so it throws the camera focus off a little bit. Okay, I'm coming back now. I'll probably get here be about 40, I would say 45%. That means it takes me about at least 12-13% of battery use to do each leg down. That means I'll be down to 30s down at the bottom trying to still go back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop this flight, bring it back, switch out to another battery. And usually this single battery on this part, like I said, I've only got, how many pictures? 75 pictures. So I'm gonna let it come back, make a turn, then I'm gonna hit the return to home button on this, and we're gonna switch out the batteries. Okay, it's making its turn. We're at 45% battery, and it's really not worth it to take it down. So there we go, we're hitting the return to home button. And like I said, depending on what I'm flying, what software I'm using, depends how I return to home. If I'm doing manual flight, I will fly it back manually. If I'm doing pre-planned flights using Litchi or other software like Pix4D or like Drone Deploy, I'll let hit the return to home button. And that's because it's basically relying upon more of the GPS signal than anything else. Using Drone Deploy, once the drone lands, it goes into a temporary suspension of the flight. And I'll ask you to continue or reset. I usually take my time at this point, getting ready, because the drone has to acquire the number of satellites. Because other than that, when it goes to the pre-flight stage, it will give me an error message saying not enough satellites available to continue the flight. So I allow the drone to go ahead and acquire enough satellites to meet the requirements of the software. So it doesn't take long, no more than about a minute tops. And I have 16 satellites, so the pre-flight checklist is going to be very smooth, go through, and it's going to tell me to start the flight, and that's what we're going to do. And there we go, you can hear the drone firing up, and it's off and running. And that's why I talk about your battery management with your flights. You got to try to have battery management. Now you might say, well, why did you bring that one back so early? Because I knew it would have been struggling to make it back if I let it go down to the other end with only about 38% battery life left. So it wouldn't complete it. It would come back on its own, because built into the Drone Deploy software, once you get down to, I think, 25%, it will automatically disengage the program and do return to home. And like I say, after that, if you're that far out, what'll happen is that once you get down, I know I have mine set at 15%. Once you hit 15%, it will go into auto land. So I don't want to walk across this big development. So this is how you have to manage your flight.